Welcome, Pontus, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk to you about Toxaemia, this new album, Rejected Souls of Kerberos, and more things related to the metal war in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band during the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for having me on your what do we say, show.
Mm.
Uh, I'm doing fine today. I've had a long day filled with my normal day job, but now in here in Sweden it's evening, so I'm done with the work today, and yeah. As far as the band goes, we're doing great. We're just excited to release this new album onto the world. So yeah, we're having a good time right now.
Okay. So when do you start writing songs for this new album? It was during the last sessions of the last album, or perhaps do you rescue any composition that led were out for the previous one?
Uh, yeah, no, I think we were uh, we were very fired up after the last album, so we started writing immediately afterwards. And I think the first song that was sort of a demo stage was the one that's called Hunger on the new album. That was the first one. It had a working title called One when we worked on it, so it was the first song.
Mhm. Okay. All to tell about this new album is that the previous one, a curious thing happened because the previous one was released during the pandemic. At that moment, you can promote, you can any you cannot do anything about to promote this new album. But now 4 years pass and we have this new album. So how do you see this album compared to the previous one that came out during the difficult times with the pandemic?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit strange. We released the album in November, just like we're doing this time, and we had a sort of a release party at the local pub in Motala, where we're all from, for the last album, and but there were restrictions, so only 8 people could come into the place at the time. So it was very strange, and we couldn't play live, so we only had the songs playing, in the stereo in the pub. It was very strange. This time around, we're doing much more. We are well. First of all, we have a proper release party together with a couple of bands, Fars Sot and Sabankaya.
Mhm.
So we're doing that to promote the album, and then we're also going on tour with Wader from Poland.
Mhm.
So we're doing a 12-day European tour to promote the album. So that's going to be awesome as well. The Freezing Hell tour with Wader. That's going to be awesome.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. One thing that you said is that the band was created in 1989 by the name OSS. So at that
Mhm.
moment, and now the curious thing, when you release officially your first album after more than 30 years of existence that band has, the pandemic happened. So the pandemic happened when you released Where the Paths Divide. So at that moment, what kind of feelings surrounds you when you are come back from the grave, and then you release the pandemic, and you release the first your first album in more than 30 years of existence, and the pandemic came out. So
Yeah.
what kind of feelings do you have at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were very happy to release an album at all, obviously, because that's a cool thing for anyone to do after such a long time. But yeah, the pandemic thing, it was just such a strange time, and now 4 years later, it's almost like we've absorbed it, and we don't remember how bad it was, and all these kind of things. It's really weird, and I think at the time we felt mainly that it was unfortunate that we couldn't, do the things that you would want to do, promote the album properly and go out and play in front of people and play all our new songs and that felt a little bit strange, but yeah, it's we were a little bit unlucky, perhaps.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, so now talking about now one thing, a part of the history of the band. So I think this is a common question in all interviews. So why the band split at the beginnings in the 90s, and then you return in 2017 with a new album also in 2020. So what are the motives at that moment that split the band at the beginnings of the 90s, and then you return at the second era of 2000s? Or
Yeah. Yeah, I do get that question a lot, and the answer is a little bit complex. I think for the splitting up, we never officially said we are splitting the band. You know, we got one of the guitar player that we had at that time, Linus, stopped playing with us. He was no longer, he didn't want to play death metal anymore, so he left the band. So for the last demo, we were just the three of us. And we felt that sound-wise, it wasn't as good. We wanted to have two guitars so that we could get a fatter guitar sound, and that affected us a lot. We couldn't find the replacement. I mean, this was back in the 90s, and people, uh, the perception of extreme metal back then was a lot different from what it is now. People just didn't understand what the hell we were doing. Most people thought it was just strange noise that they. So we couldn't find a replacement to jump in the guitar place. That was one big thing. And then we all did our military services. It's mandatory in Sweden to do military services. So we all did that. That didn't happen at the same time. It was sort of stacked out, so we didn't have time to rehearse as much. We sort of slipped away from the music a little bit. Other interests came in, and all of a sudden, you haven't been to rehearsal in like 6 months. We haven't done anything, and so we just stopped, and then we just didn't go come together playing anymore. It was a strange experience as well. Then after that, we all moved away. I moved to Scotland, and Stevo moved to Madeira in Portugal, and so on. So we left our hometown, and then it took us up until 2017 to all live in the same place again, which was why we then felt so how do we what do we do now? We're all in the same place again. Should we maybe just start playing for because we like each other and we want to have a hobby together. So that's how it started, as an excuse to have a beer and talk a lot of shit and maybe play some guitar. And that's how it started. So we did that for a little while, and then we got an offer to play a gig at Bomber Bar in Motala. So, and then we thought, yeah, maybe we should learn more of the new songs. Maybe we should write some new songs, and so we got fired up about it. So yeah, that's yeah, the short version of what happened.
Mhm. Okay, interesting to know. So, a detail that always is common to think in the 90s, if your first album has been released at that moment, today you perhaps you could be considered as a legend. And you know that it's now a topic because usually things like that when you release an album in the 90s. I was there
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I tried to hear many bands by tapes, by I don't know, by a lot of me, but I love to try to get a lot of try to this. But with this kind of topic, so at that moment, if you release your first album in the 90s or the beginnings of 90s, you right now you are considered like the legend, a great band, this kind of stuff completely. But things happen differently. So now in 2020, you release your first album. So, and obviously people have a different kind of attention for the new releases because as you can see, there is a lot of things coming every weekend. It's impossible to catch up every weekend. So how do you see this? How do you take this? Now at the beginning, Now that now you have a lot of competition with the new releases. It's not like the 90s, and even less people remember from the first era of the 90s.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's very different, and as you say, so many bands now and so many releases all the time, and yeah, the competition is very strong, and everyone is really talented, and yeah, uh, our philosophy basically is we just want to release songs that we like, and that if we like them, then there's a chance that someone else might like them too. It's simple. We rewrite songs that we like to hear, and and then if someone likes it too, that's awesome. We can't think of what would have been and what should have happened if we're here now, and we've done the first album, which did very well considering that we no one had heard of us for 25 years. We had this break where we just disappeared. So considering that, we think it did great, and I think this album is an even stronger album. So hopefully it can shine through a little bit more because I think it's a good album, and yeah. We can't compete with everyone else. It doesn't make any sense. We're just here to play the songs that we like, and as I said, if someone else likes it, then that's awesome. It's we do this because we think it's fun and we like it a lot. And as I said, I think that philosophy takes you quite far. As long as you're having fun and doing it because you like it or love it even, then yeah.
Mhm. Okay, other concept is about the sound of Toxaemia because I remember that I hear your repeat in Beyond the Realm when I try to find more things to hear at that moment, and
Mm,
at that time you try to like a lot of bands try to do this Swedish concept at that moment, but when your first album Keep Yours with Past the Bite, you didn't have the Swedish sound like we know,
mm,
like the HM2, this kind of there's more you try to diverse your sound with the new elements, with the new things, because of
mm,
this new era. It's completely normal. So
mm.
do you think that this kind of hiatus of the band bring a new sound instead to copy and paste the Swedish sound that is for a lot of bands now?
No, I don't think we did sound like that back then either. We've never used an HM2 pedal in our music. We've never had the HM2, the classic buzzsaw sound. We never went to Sunlight Studios to record. I think we back then sounded more. Uh, American or maybe
Mm,
English. Maybe some Finnish bands sounded a little bit like us back then as well. But so we didn't have the traditional Swedish sound then. And what we tried to do now with the last album was our thinking was if this had been in 1992. What would the album have sounded then? So that's what we were trying to achieve. We were trying to find the 1992 sound of us. Then the songwriting obviously is different because we've had 25 years of influences and so on. You can't remove that, but you can still try and get the death metal sound of 1992, and that's what we were aiming for. I think we did it, but that's my opinion. I think it sounds like an album that could have been released in 1992.
mm,
Uh, so yeah, that's for the new album. We've tried to have a little bit fatter, more modern sound,
mm,
but we still want to maintain the Toxemia flavor of it, and we still want it to be an old school death metal album. We're an old school death metal band, We don't want to
mm,
be anything else. So yeah,
mm.
that's
Mhm. Okay, okay. So talking about the promotion of these new Rejected Souls of Kerberos, what kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will present more videos, perhaps you will embark in a tour, who knows? Or what kind of plans do you have in general for Toxemia? Or perhaps you are already working a new album, who knows?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things happening. The promotion, we've got two singles out now, Blood Red and X Audio. And then we have another single coming out in 2 weeks. Yeah, on the 1st of November, I think it is. And then we do the album releases on the 15th of November. And after that, we do the release gig, which is on the 22nd of November. And then on the 4th of December, we go on a tour with Vader, as I said. Uh, and I wouldn't say that we've started writing a new album, but there are songs that are uh, sort of there that we are working on. You know, we always write new things. So I know Stevo has. We were talking about it yesterday. He's got a song or two that he's been working on. I've got a song or two that I've been working on. So we'll be getting on there. We're thinking about doing something maybe in between this album and the next, maybe some EP. There are a lot of thoughts. We don't know yet. We were maybe thinking of doing a four-song EP if we can find a good way of doing that that makes sense. But yeah, promotion-wise, then we're looking to do as much live playing as possible for the next year or so. 2025 is going to be dedicated to playing as much live as we can. That's the plan.
Okay. Okay, interesting to know. So now talking about other kind of topics, especially into the well, we can see the metal rock in general. I always consider that rock or metal music is the music of people that may age but keep their spirit young. So I listen to the last records from the classic bands, and after decades, many of them managed to keep the energy. But to be realistic, nothing lasts forever. In your opinion, what do you think is going to happen when most classic bands that can perform in stadiums will be retired? Do you think that there are younger bands that can carry the torch in that aspect?
Hmm. I think that there's a healthy amount of young bands coming along. Here in Sweden, for sure, there's a lot of young, good bands coming up. The question is interesting because yeah, the rest of us that are getting on a little bit from the those who were in the start of death metal. Uh, because it's extreme metal is very hard on you from a physical aspect, especially if you're a drummer, for example. That's being 65 70 years old and playing blast beats and double time on the bass pedal. It's not as easy as maybe playing some other types of metal. So yeah, I think you're gonna see people uh, yeah, slowing down, getting off there. But there is a healthy amount of good young bands coming up, and I can only talk for Sweden because that's the only place I've got any sort of sense of it. But there's a lot of youngsters out there who want to play extreme metal, and I think if they just keep at it, then they're gonna fill the shoes of these old men quite quite easily.
Okay. Okay, as you can see now, the music industry changed a lot through the decades, especially for classic bands from the 70s or 80s, even from 90s. They have seen see a huge change during the war. But even for young bands now for 5 years or 3 years, it may experience the change in these years. So because they have the digital platforms now become more important way to spread the music. So, how has been your experience with digital platforms, and how do you deal with the issue of fans not listening to full albums like before because they now focus more on singles and the attention span also?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it is a different thing now. Absolutely. And the digitalization of music is something that you just have to deal with. And I think from our perspective, metal fans are quite good. They still like to play albums to a certain degree. They still support the underground scene is good. I mean, every show you go to, people buy your albums, they buy your T-shirts. They're good with supporting you. So I think it's for metal maybe healthier than for many other types of music, but because there is a what do you say a mentality of supporting the bands and it's more difficult to reach out. It's actually easier to get heard, but it's almost impossible to be heard once you've released something because as you said earlier in the interview, the amount of releases every Friday that comes out is insane. And how do you differentiate yourself in that flow of new music that keeps coming all the time? That's a much harder task than it used to be, and that's I suppose the backside of the digitalization of the world is that now we've got such a massive flow of what do you say things getting thrown at your face all the time. Uh, how are you gonna stick out? How are you gonna be the one that you listen to?
Okay,
And
okay.
I don't know the answer.
Okay, okay. And one of the last questions for this interview, Pontus, is that talking about things that change the perspective of the understanding metal worldwide is now the social media or the social networks like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't know more.
Hmm.
So as you know today, thanks to this media, metal became more understandable and comprehensible. Even the lost the sense of impact, fear, or mystery that it had during the 70s, 80s, or 90s. When you talk about, and you remember very well this, when you talk about Brujeria, the band from US, and you think that they are narco-satanic people, or King Diamond lived with monsters and demons in his castle. So that's a great thing. Or even the black metal scene, the black metal is burning churches. There are mysteries with inner circle. A lot of things happening during the 70s, 80s, or 90s. But now there is no mystery of curiosity that metal gives you on a general level. What is your point of view about this move away from the fear, mystery, or curiosity that metal had before, and now everything is comprehensible?
Yeah, that is certainly one aspect of it that is interesting, and it's I would say it's almost impossible to keep that mystery around a band or an event or something nowadays because everything is available to everyone on all these different channels. And to a certain extent, I suppose it's a problem for those who want to be mysterious and they want to keep this. I don't know. For us, it's not so much. We've always been fairly open and not focused so much on trying to be mysterious or maybe as some of the black metal bands they want to keep things has to be a certain way, otherwise it's not really it's not the right, what do they call it, true or something like that. It's and I think it's yeah, it's more difficult for those who try to keep that mystery. For us, it's not really been that much of an issue. We've always been fairly open, and we try to just you know be
Hmm.
us, I suppose.
Okay, other detail about this topic of the talking about now the algorithms, more technology in general. So
Mm,
as you can see, as you can know, as you can see, thanks for these social networks like Facebook, Instagram, when you put an art with nude, or you put an art with visors there, or when you put something disembowelment into the cover art, automatically this AI or the algorithms or this software delete or block your account because this software doesn't understand what the art means. For us, it's very simple because you are with Cannibal Corpse present butchered the beard, some of mutilated, and for us it's completely normal to see this kind of art. That's for us it's just art. It's not like you will go to the priest and you murder the priest. That is not one thing that we will not do that. So that's just art for us. But
Mm.
for the AI, for the software, or for the algorithms, they this kind of or it this kind of thing took this topic of this like a censorship, like nudes, all these topics is not interpreted like art for this software. So
Mm.
now how can you see this into this metal area? Because this algorithm, this AI is against to the metal, against the metal covers, because this machine doesn't understand what the art means for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's I suppose it's always been an issue with metal in general. There's always someone trying to censor us, if it's the lyrics, which it was sort of in the 80s, in America for sure, they were going crazy about people singing things on albums. And who was it? It was Al Gore's wife, I think, who tried to ban everyone from singing whatever they wanted. And now instead we have all these social media platforms with what would amount to censorship. I don't think that they're actually trying to censor. They're trying to be some sort of morality police,
Mm.
which is very strange. I don't need anyone to tell me what my morality is. I know what my morality is by myself. And if there is something that I don't want to see on these platforms, I can just choose not to look at it. It's very simple. I don't think the censorship makes any sense. To me, it doesn't make any sense. If you don't want to see a tomb brother mutilated with cannibal corpse, don't look. It's so I don't condone this. Uh, but that's my personal opinion. I don't speak for anyone else but me, but I don't condone censorship like this. I think that people should be free to choose what they want to view or sing or read or whatever it is. And if you're offended by it, then just don't look at it, don't read it, don't listen to it. It's people should censor themselves.
Okay, okay. Well, Pontus, we come to the sad moment of this interview. I hope you enjoyed this interview as I did. And thank you very much for your time. This new Rejected Souls of Kerberos is a tremendous album. Congratulations on this new one. So, and
Thank you.
also, maybe you have something to add to your Latin fans and obviously Metallerium followers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. Just give the album a chance. It's as you said, I think it's a good album, and have a listen to it, and maybe buy a physical copy. That's always good for us. Physical copies actually gets us some money, uh, while as streaming, yeah, is yes, you don't get an awful lot of money for it, but we're hoping that we can do something in the future coming to Latin America somehow. Uh, there are no plans in place. It's very difficult to on a small budget like we have. We're not a big band, and it's hard to go as far away as that for playing live. But there are there's a wish there that we want to come and play in Latin America as well.